Namaskar. I'm Nandita Pandey here, back again talking to you today about Mercury's retrogression and how things would be when Mercury is retrograde. Mercury is a planet which is a fast, very, very fast moving planet. It's the closest to the Earth, to the Sun, and kind of takes a rotation much faster than the Earth around the Sun. And that's the reason sometimes what happens is when Mercury is moving fast and then it starts slowing down and then Earth moves fast forward, it looks as if it is going backwards. And that's the phase and that's the time when we think Mercury is going retrograde or it's going backwards. Actually, it's not true. It's just an illusion that is created. It's like there are two cars that going forward and suddenly one car goes past you and slows down and then your car is passing, so you feel that the other car is probably going backwards, and that's the kind of similar situation that happens when Mercury goes retrograde. And we kind of think, oh, it's going backwards, but that's not the case. Celestially, it is still moving forward, but in a much slower pace. But since scientifically it has also been found that Mercury's got a lot of apart from lead content, a lot of iron content, and automatically it influences the human body system on a very strong level. So it's like a mercurial temperament, and Mercury is also a planet of mind. It rules your mind, it rules your communications, it rules your vocal system, it rules your lungs, automobile sectors, computers, travel. So these are the areas where I majorly see there will be a lot of afflictions that would come, a lot of confusions or undecisiveness that would suddenly crop up. So these are the areas one needs to watch out. So when is Mercury going retrograde now? So Mercury goes retrograde from August 30th to September 22nd. Since I am talking about Delhi's time point, so you can calculate your time point in Delhi. It would be retrograde from 30th of August, 6:34 p.m. and it goes direct on September 22nd. It's almost a period again of around 23 days, and it goes direct at around 11 a.m. 11:01 a.m. So that's the time frame. So it could be a little 5 minutes here, there, and all according to your own time place. You'll have to check that up, but that's what it is for Delhi, India time, where Mercury goes retrograde. But then Mercury retrograde is this period, but it also has a pre-shadow period and then the post retrograde period. So a week, 10 days before it goes retrograde and a week, 10 days after it goes retrograde, the effect is still there. So one needs to be a little careful before or you indulge into taking a new decision, new things that you want to take up. So avoid doing that because there will be a lot of internal confusions that will suddenly crop up. So, especially if you're planning to go into a surgeries and if you are planning a dental surgery or a plastic surgery, no, you don't have to do that. Be very careful about it because that might just boomerang back or misfire on you. So that's an area of concern that you need to do. On a safer side, what you can do is you can have your computer backup system because there are chances that it might just crash down. Normally, that's the kind of statistics we have that during this retrograde period, normally such things happen. You should be very careful about your vehicle's maintenance. Just see to it that your tires are properly maintained or your car has been serviced so that it doesn't break down right in the middle of the road and you don't know what to do, and then you're looking forward to some service guy to come over and handle it. So be careful on those areas, and especially when you're traveling and you're having an air travel. So look at the statistics and all the basic requisites and then go forward because there could be a document error also. So these are an areas that where you need to be a little careful about. So this is what is about primarily how Mercury would affect, but we would also talk about how would it affect your sun signs, the sign that you've been born into, and how would different sun sign fare in the mercurial thing. For any further, this is like what I'm giving you is a generic forecast. It's like a general forecast for a particular sun sign. But if you want a consultation on how these coming 3 weeks or 4 weeks are going to fare for you, what remedies you can do, what you have to do, you can subscribe this channel, contact me personally, and my email address is soch.345@gmail.com. soch.345@gmail.com. You can contact me there. I'll definitely get back to you and answer your queries. And they, of course, are on energy exchange basis. So only if you're serious about it, do contact me. You can also call me on my India number. 9312711293. I repeat it again, 9312711293. So that's my number, that's my email ID. You can contact me for your personal consultation. But here what we are going to give you is the generic forecast on how Mercury is going to affect different sun signs during this period, and what basic care that you need to do, especially because it's a 2-3 weeks periods. And if you are planning to take up a new decision, new projects and all, just do a lot of planning it around this time. Maybe you can contact your old clients, you can revive an old relationship which has just been dying and been stagnant. So this is a good time to meet old pals. So Mercury retrograde doesn't really mean that it's going to be bad on you. It can also bring in good results for you. So just be careful about those areas, and do a lot of plannings, do a lot of revival in your work. Focus on the new projects, but with a lot of plannings, and revive the old ones. It's a very, very excellent time to revive your old relationships. If you you have had a tiff with your boyfriend or a girlfriend, you can always bring it back here at this time, and then talk about it. Chances are things will start resuming again on a more harmonious note. Similarly, if there is been a client you haven't been speaking to him or her for long, so this is the time to do your PR work and get things rolling. So the Mercury also gives you, retrograde also gives you good benefits. Meanwhile, coming back to the generic forecast, we'll start off with Aries and how are Aries going to do. Now, Aries are basically people generally, they are very childlike and they're very focused, and they know what they're looking forward to. They're very strong also, determined also. Now, this is the time when I look into Aries. You need to particularly watch out for what you're saying. Be very careful about your speech aspect. So these are the areas that you need to be extremely careful about. And any decision that you're doing or taking, just think twice before what you are speaking, because that's an area that you might need to work into. Similarly, because the transition is in Virgo, in the mundane astrology, Mercury is transiting in Virgo. So automatically it's going retrograde in Virgo. So automatically it also requires you to, it's an earth sign. So anything that needs a lot of practical decisions. So these are the areas that you need to work upon. All the sun signs, not only Aries, but all the sun signs. Going back to Taurians, Taurians are again very determined, very focused, very grounded. But during the retrograde period, there are chances that they might just have that illusion around them and think that they are being very practical, and yet they're not looking into the fine nitty-gritties of the situation. So you need to check that out. Think before you act. Look down into the practical aspects of all your work plans and then work into it. No property decisions around the time. For Taurians, especially the dental issues, you need to be very, very careful about, because that's an area I see things might go a little haywire for you. And then I come to Geminis. How would Geminis fare? So for Geminis, things would be a little, because they again, this Mercury, they're ruled by Mercury, so they might go a little haywire. Quick decisions, fast decisions, and yet not really planning anything, and just taking an action without any basic requisites about whether it is necessary or not, and all the time thinking that no, my brain is working fast and I know what I'm doing, but you're actually not doing it. So there is a little gap there on implementation of an action and actually thinking that it has been implemented or it can be implemented the way you want it. It's not going to be. You also have to be very careful with your gadgets, because that's the area of possession and possessiveness in your mind, and chances are for Geminis the gadgets might misfire or might conk off, and also these areas, and especially the communication PR skill areas, you need to work upon. For Cancerians are basically very homely people. They are very focused and a little sensitive also, but right now the mood swings are going to be very, very high during this coming 3 weeks. Any kind of emotional issues for Cancerians needs to be reworked upon, and you need to be very careful about what you are planning to do and how you're planning to do this. So that part I want you to be very careful on. And then I would also want further on Cancerians to be a little more diplomatic in your situations. Leos are like very flamboyant, very vibrant, very generous, and very royal in their entire demeanor. But yet, during this retrograde period, because Mercury is normally when it is maximum into 28 degrees from the Sun, it tends to go retrograde. So for Leo, the chances are that you might just rely on wrong friends, you might just over trust, there could be excessive level of financial dwindling. So that aspect you need to be very careful about in the stock market area. So Leos, I would not want you to be too pompous in your attitude around these 3 weeks. You need to be very careful. You also need to be careful about where you're spending your money on, and who you are giving your money to. So these are the areas that you need to be extremely careful about. And then coming down to Virgo, since your own sign, it is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is already retrograde in Virgo. So I think the most affected of all is the sign Virgo, where major movement and major shackles might take place. And for you also, I would want you to recheck your health issues, because these are the areas which might be a little concerned. You might be a little concerned about, and that's an area I want you also to be very focused about. And apart from that, because you are a perfectionist, so you always look into the minor details, but during this time you might just fail to do that and overlook certain things, and then later on you would regret, why did I do that? I mean, why? It was not required, and yet you have done it. So need to be careful on that area. And then coming down to Librans are absolutely glamorous people, very balanced. They are very charming, and they really know how to deal with people and deal in public life. But for Librans also, because your Mercury goes retrograde in your 12th house, so be careful about dealing with foreigners, strangers, foreign trips, especially when you're planning to do any foreign travels. That could misfire a little. So look into the itinerary, go back and back again into what you're working, where you're traveling to, who all are you going to approach during this time. So that's an area I would want you to be really particular about. And then comes down to Scorpio. Scorpions are very intuitive people, very intuitive. You can just look into your eyes and they know what you are thinking and doing, and they can search your soul. So that's the kind of people Scorpions are. And during this time, again, they'll become oversensitive, and this is an area I want Scorpions to be very careful about, because there can be bouts of depression, and there could be some career challenges that might come up to you, because when Mercury goes retrograde, it is going to go and might seem to go to the house of Leo, which is your career chart, and career house, and that could affect and afflict it. And also inherited properties or relationship with your elder siblings, that could be an area of trouble. So you need to be careful on those areas. And coming down to Sagittarians, how Sagittarians would fare during these 3 weeks and what all they can do. Sagittarians are adventurous people. They love nature. They have that sportsman spirit and free-spirited birds. And yet during this time they might find themselves a little tied down by some obligations, some restrictions coming up, and they would want to, break those shackles and move out. And yet things are like, kind of a little shaky if you are not very particular and careful about what decisions you are making at this time. So that's an area I really want you to be very careful about. Although I do see good fortune coming in, and it's like a blessing in disguise, and around this time. So for Sagittarians, going to be a balanced time, good time, and yet you need to be careful as far as your career decisions are concerned. Coming down to Capricorn. Now, Capricorns, in this transition, it is like a little shaky for you right now, because all your practical focus decisions are going to just slip out of your area, and you will know why it is happening. But primarily what is happening is it's a lot of internal tribulations that's happening inside you, and you don't really know, because the focus is not going to the priority sector. It is being just dissipated down to other areas. So you need to focus, you need to be very consistent about what you want to do in life. Do a lot of planning during this time, and do a very meticulously detailed project work, before you implement into it. Don't take any major decisions around this time, so you need to be extremely careful in this. Capricorns also need to be careful about health issues, and especially the feet area can be a little troublesome around this Mercury retrograde period. And then coming down to Aquarians, how Aquarians will fare during this retrogression. Primarily the retrogression is taking place in your 8th house, but then it's going back to your 7th house, and it could bring in a little troubled relationship with your spouse. And that's an area that you need to work. I think you need to be careful about how you are going to deal with your relationship area, with your spouse, with your career partners, business partners. So these are an area which needs a lot of working and thinking, and because that's an area which could be affected, and also your health issues. So these are the two areas that you need to work. The chances of cold and cough and throat issues that might suddenly crop up. Also pain in the legs or viral flu, you'll be a little sensitive to those areas, so need to be very, very careful on those areas too, especially also while traveling. Just be careful when you're traveling, so just make your travel plans with all the details if at all necessary. Otherwise, if you can drop it down, it'll be good for you. And then coming down to Pisceans, what Pisceans can do. So Pisceans are the basically very sensitive, very mature people, very romantic and very artistic, creative also. But during this time for Pisceans, this is not a very healthy time to go in for any major decisions, and you also need to avoid it. And also because for Pisceans, the crown chakra is controlled by the Pisceans, and also the soul minor chakras are controlled by the Pisceans. So there could be afflictions related to what you're thinking, or maybe there could be fever related to your mind, or there could be clogging of your thought process, what you're thinking. So that needs to be clarified, and before taking any decisions, any mental decisions, any decisions that requires a lot of thinking, you need to avoid during this time, and you need to be more focused. Coming down to the remedies, what all you can do. So what is the most important thing for you all to do during a Mercury retrograde period is that one needs to be a little calm, because this retrogression is going in an earth sign. So you need to be more grounded, more practical, and also the best remedy that I always say is to bless the whole world, bless everybody around, bless planet Mercury, bless your decisions, bless your work. So the more you bless, the better, and the more you are blessed in return. So it is like that. So meditating a little while every day and grounding yourself down to Mother Earth, blessing Mother Earth every day, is going to bring in huge monumental changes in your life. And this retrogression would in fact, on the contrary, bring you a lot of good gains also. Mercury retrograde not necessarily is a bad idea to go with, and there are a lot of things that can be revived during this time, like old relationship, old friendships, old clientele. So focus on those areas, focus on the revival zone rather than taking up new projects. So that's the key area that I would want everybody to work into and pray and bless. Also, followed immediately by the retrogression on the 1st of September is solar eclipse. Though solar eclipse is not affecting the Indian subcontinent, but it is also kind of working on a zone where it goes from South Atlantic Ocean down to the entire South Africa, and to down to the Madagascar area. So these are the areas which will be afflicted more, and there will be a lot of energy, turbulence and changes happening in those particular zones more, because we again followed by a lunar eclipse on the 16th and the 17th. So these are all prerequisites. In September month, I see lot of actions being taking place internationally. When I look into it, there are a lot of things happening. There is a Brexit that has happened. There are elections that are about to come up in US, in England, and there are a lot of there's a UN meet in US again. So there are a lot of decision making zones right now, but the thought process is going having an upheaval, and then like suddenly things which have been completely unexpected things might crop up, and unexpected revolutions might come up. So it also signifies death of a spiritual leader, or a leader of significance, or a political leader. There are chances that such things can happen. So in mundane astrology, and also be very careful about floods and natural calamities, and especially because it is ground. So I see a lot of earthquakes might crop up, or tsunami-like structures, or as I said in my previous videos about when we were talking about eclipse on lunar eclipse, earlier lunar eclipse. So because these are three eclipses following one by one by one, and so it's like a cleansing process. It's like people. So this was it, and we were talking about Mercury's retrogression. I'll come up to you again about a lot of other things, and coming up is again a lunar eclipse, which is very close by in September. So September is a time with a lot of upheavals that's happening. It's also a cleansing process. So meanwhile, do enjoy this video, follow this video, follow the remedies that I'm talking about and the tips that I'm talking about, and do subscribe this channel down there. Nandita Pandey 1 is the channel's name. You can subscribe it, you can keep getting updated about further videos, and so long, have a blessed time ahead. Goodbye.